Hi, I'm Logan Cook with Envision Property Management. Your boy there behind the camera is going to help me today. The purpose of this video is to give investors an idea of how I intake properties. This property was bought at foreclosure, so it's a typical property. There's going to be a lot of work needed on this house. And this is very representational of a lot of investment property in the metro Atlanta area. The property is about 17 years old. So, and I think it has all of the original systems, original roof, and not very many updates have been done to the property. So let's get started and take a look around. We're just going to walk around. I'm going to point out some things that I look for when I am intaking a property. Come on with me. As you can see, this property is what's called a split foyer plan. That means you walk up a small flight of stairs and then it splits in the foyer. This grass here is called a Bermuda grass. It's kind of a crawling grass. It's very popular in Georgia. It's drought friendly, it's easy to maintain, it's hard to kill, unless you allow what's happened here is weeds to take over. So it's definitely time to get that under control. You'll see it throughout most of the new construction and construction in Georgia. Okay, if we pan back towards the house, we'll have to cut back the shrubs. Usually what we do, we cut back the shrubs very hard, bring them back into shape, kind of at maybe in like a starter position. As you can see, they've done that over there on that property, the shrubs right there. And that's kind of what we're going to try to do here, just to make it easy for when a tenant moves in. They don't have a lot to maintain with regards to the shrubbery. As you can see up there on the roof, that is a typical roof in Georgia. There are several different kinds of roofs available, but this is a composition roof, a composite roof. It's made with tar, and it's called an asphalt shingle. As you can see, there's a couple of shingles that have fallen off. So when we go inside, we would try to find if it would coincide with maybe some water stains in the ceilings. Typically a roof, like a 3-tab roof like this, is probably your entry-level roof. Their life expectancy is probably around 20 to 25 years. We're looking at 17 years of this, we're at the end of the life expectancy. Hopefully the roof can be saved, but more than likely it's going to have to replace that roof within the next 2 to 5 years, if not now. What we'll do is we'll send out a certified roofer to evaluate it and see if he can make some repairs. Up there, as you can see on the roof, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more pieces that have fallen, and usually that's due to wind damage. Now, on occasion, we might have a hailstorm, we might have a severe storm that can cause damage, and that isn't insured under your insurance as a catastrophic. That does not affect your premiums typically, but you would need to check with your homeowner's insurance policy to see. A roof about that size, approximately $5,000 to replace it, maybe $6,500. It really depends. Come along here. Typically, I like to walk all the way around the exterior of the home to look for any kind of issues that might arise. As I said earlier, this is a vinyl siding. The vinyl siding is a plastic siding. Almost every time that I intake a property, we try to pressure wash the property. As you can see, it has mold on it that will grow, or a mildew, shall I say, that will grow on the siding, and we bleach it and we wash it. That is one of the benefits of vinyl siding, that you don't typically ever have to paint it. On occasion, what you'll see that the buckling right there, you'll find a piece missing. And usually after 17 years of the vinyl siding being on a house, it's very hard, very difficult to match it exactly. That's one of the downsides. Okay, over here, this is what a typical baiting system for termites. Now, in Georgia, termites are prevalent. We're one of the top places for termites. This baiting system has bait on the inside, and it requires the termite company come out quarterly to check and see if there's termites in there, and they will spot treat any termites that arise. In future episodes, we'll get more into depth about your options with termites. Okay. Of course, we have some ants here that we'll need to treat and get off the house. Typically, ants are an indication of termites because they like to eat the termites. So you definitely don't want ant piles on your house at any time. Okay, I don't know if you can notice here, but there the ground is sinking. You look, it's about an oval-sized sinking here. This is very typical for houses built in this era. A lot of times, the builders, this is called a tract subdivision. They come in and they develop the lots. And as they build the houses, a lot of times they'll bury their debris, which is typically wood, in the ground. And after time, that wood will decay and decompose and cause the ground to sink. Most houses built around this time also, or built in Georgia, are called frame houses. They're built with 2x4s and 2x6s. Okay, if you want to take a look here, this is your typical foundation. It's a concrete slab foundation. And what they do is they pour the concrete and then they build the house from that. The other two types, typical types of foundations in Georgia, are crawl space and basements. Now, crawl space and basements add cost to the builders, to the building of properties. Typically, the reason why somebody would have a basement would be because of the lay of the land. If the lot is sloping a lot, they'll typically call for a basement. Might be required because of the way the land lays. But some people prefer basements, and they'll do that on purpose. But it really depends. But the typical reasons for a crawl space would be the same, that there's a significant slope to the property. The benefits maybe of a crawl space would be access to pipes, access to different things, whereas on a slab, if you ever have a broken pipe in the slab, it would cause to have to break up some concrete. But that's not very typical because the slab concrete itself protects the property. Okay, right here is what you have is a gutter system. It catches the water that comes from the roof, so the water's not rushing and falling down on the foundation. It's a typical downspout coming down, trying to manage water, because you always want to manage water to move away from the house. That is a very important issue. What you see there is the box chase for the fireplace, and then you have a vent there with a bird cage over it, so birds can't get in and nest in that. But we'll take a look more in depth at the fireplace when we get inside. Okay, it looks like we have some serious problems with this deck. It is definitely doesn't look safe. You're having some severe twisting in this in the supports. It may be salvageable, but probably most likely this whole deck would have to be replaced. So, also what I'm noticing is there's been some serious twisting as well on the support beam that secures the deck to the house. It's actually bending away, exposing the lag bolts. And then the lag bolts go through it and they go into the skirt of the house. What happens when you have this twisting back, water can get into the lag bolts and go into the house and rot out the hole and cause what's happening here, where it could pull away from the house. So you would definitely not want to have any tenants on a deck that's in this condition. And to prove the point of water intrusion, as you can see, there's water's been getting behind this door and has rotted out the door. And anytime there's a lot of water intrusion, you run the risk of termites. And this is typical termite damage. as you can see, they like to bring the dirt in because they're really soft animals, and this is what's caused this door to rot out. And if you step inside, you'll see here where water is coming into the property via the lag bolts that I mentioned earlier. It's actually protruding right here where the deck pushing forward is actually pushing out here. So this is definitely an issue that needs to be resolved. A lot of times when builders put these in, they may not flash it properly. You know, you definitely don't want water to go in behind and get behind the lag bolts. So, yeah, come on out and we'll take a look. Oh, there's another bait system. As you can see, they have the baiting systems on each side of the door. So these will be throughout the house. Okay, we have an air conditioning unit. This is a air compressor. It has Freon. This is very typical for Georgia construction. As you can see, the electrical shutoff here. We have insulated the copper line here. Insulation on the copper line here. This probably will need to be replaced with a new one. And then you have a condensation drain line right here. Here's the condensation drain line. Because as it runs, it creates a condensation. This being a two-story home, it has two separate units. One to serve the upstairs and one to serve the downstairs. That would be called a zoned or dual unit property. And typically a unit like this may run around $1,500 to $2,200 if you had to replace it. It's one of the major mechanical systems. In Georgia, we have 4 seasons, 4 real seasons. We have, spring, summer, fall, and winter. These units run all year round. Whether it's AC or whether it's running heat, there's constantly running. So it's good to get on a service agreement. When we intake a property, we always suggest going ahead and having everything serviced. When they service it, they come out, they check the Freon in the property. There's typically a service charge, $150 to $175, $225, depending on how many units and how much work they have to do. And then an additional charge would be checking the Freon, checking the system, cleaning the system, and we'll take a look at that more when we get inside. The AC units are on the outside, and the furnace typically is on the inside. The furnace forces the air through the house, and it usually has the heating system inside of it. Okay, right here we have an outside spigot. This is an outside water spigot, so people can water their lawn. People can, attach a hose and do whatever they need to do. There's a lot of times we'll find that these leak. There's a place we have to replace them. It's just something to watch out for. Also, in the wintertime, you want to turn off the water on the inside for the spigot and open it up so you can drain all the water out so you don't freeze. And that's something that we share with the tenants. Typically, we'll have them, when they move in, already winterized and kind of leave it up to them to unwinterize it if they need it. Not typical that they'll need it. And if they don't know how to turn it on, of course, we'll turn it on for them, but actually show them how to turn it back off for winter. So you don't want frozen pipes because that's another issue that could cause serious damage to your property that may be covered under insurance if you're doing everything properly, but it's just a headache you don't want to deal with. Okay, so there's another unit, and right here what you'll find is this is a vent for the dryer. You have a washing machine and a dryer in the house, and it connects to this unit so it can vent out of the house. Also, similar to the bird cage that we had put on on the fireplace, we would put here to prevent birds from nesting or crawling into there or any kind of vermins to get inside. Right here is a satellite dish. Typically in most of these tract subdivisions there's cable available in the street, but some people like to have dish. We don't allow tenants to install anything onto the house. A lot of times these dishes are installed on the roofs, which eventually cause leaking. So if they're not properly taken care of, so This unit is actually in the ground, which would be the preferred installation method for this. This is how they get cable TV um, um, through to their house. Okay, along here, this is a telephone network that runs the telephone through here. So, and then a charter box, a cable box, like I had mentioned, that would be typically wired at construction. And so they have a wire that's buried under the ground that they can have television service from. Now, this is the same thing as the satellite dish that I just mentioned. It's for television, but some people prefer dish for various reasons. And this is the power that comes into the house. They have buried the power lines under the ground. Sometimes they'll run the power from a pole to a house, and you might see that in the future. And this is the meter that they check in order to gauge usage. They've gotten to a system now where they can these can be checked remotely, so they don't have to come out and check them every week like they used to. As you can see, definitely in need of pressure washing on the entire house.
Hey, Logan, can I mention something as well?
Yes.
Also, a lot of people will be interested in how they would obtain internet. That will also be usually provided through Charter or through your phone company. So yes, they will actually run those wires through there as well.
That's right.
And they do have some satellite companies, but the internet is not as efficient through the satellite company. So a lot of people kind of opt for either cable or ADSL through their telephone company or through their cable company.
Yep, I agree. All right. So we have right here a missing elbow downspout. So the water will be dropping right down onto the foundation. So typically, you want to get the elbow, and this is called a splash block, and it prevents the ground from eroding out underneath where the water comes out. Kind of pushes it away from the house as well. And then we have another termite baiting system right there. Another expense, typically on an intake, anytime, whether it's a tenant moving out or moving in, is light bulbs. You wouldn't think about that, but some of these houses have a lot of light bulbs. This is not the proper light bulbs for an outside unit. It would more than likely be more of a floodlight, so as people come home and drive into their drives, they can actually see, and for safety purposes. And then you got your typical aluminum two-car garage here. So keep moving along here. We have this is a deck or a staircase that goes up to the front of the property. It's definitely in need of some attention. It's previously been painted, so we would have to go back with a paint instead of a stain. We would have to always try to evaluate the integrity of the stairs, especially, and the handrails. Replace any missing spigots. This would have to be painted for sure. But overall, despite what it looks like, it's in good condition. Pressure washing will help with a lot of the stuff you see here. We have a bird nest there. We have a very dingy soffit. That's called a soffit system. And then and the siding here. So all this stuff will look really nice. And most important, this is, when we renovate a property or when we intake a property, we try to make sure that the tenant would want to live here. Because typically we'll have happier tenants if you do the property in a nice, clean manner. And so most important initially is that getting the front looking nice when people walk up and it's nice and clean. All right, let's take a look at some of these issues going into the house. This is called a storm door, and it's typical to have a storm door. A lot of times people will have a screen where they can have their door open and have a little bit of fresh air going in. But as you can see, the door handle is missing. The hydraulic system is broken, and then there's another hydraulic system. Now, if the door is in good shape, we can replace the hydraulic systems and salvage the door. I'm not so sure we're going to be able to find this door handle. So more than likely, if we're not able to find the door handle, we would just take this off and putty the holes and because it's not necessary to have a storm door. There is a benefit to it, but it would be up to the owner to decide whether or not they would want to replace it or remove it. As a as a contractor, I would say, just for rental purposes, just to go ahead and remove it to keep costs down. Okay, let's take a look here. We got the doorbell. I mean, this is I know some of this stuff might be silly for me to point out, but what I find is a lot of our international investors are not familiar with the homes here because their houses are built different. They have different climates. So I just wanted to give everybody an idea of what to expect and to look at when they're buying here in Metro Atlanta, Georgia. All right, this is your typical foyer for a split foyer home. There's small stairs going up. There's a stairs going up to the main level and down to typically where the bedrooms and baths or a den is located. Again, I want to remind you that this is a foreclosure, so it's going to be a little rough, going to be a little dirty. We'll probably try to do a follow-up after we get it all cleaned up and painted and jazzed up. Okay. We'll just go upstairs here. Typical floor covering is carpet. This is and that's what you're seeing right here. This carpet will definitely need to be replaced. There is bleaching stains here. There's just really got a lot of wear and tear. That is an additional cost as well that it's something that the investor has to prepare for. Also, these walls are in pretty rough shape. You'll find this kind of stuff going all the way through the house. So when I look at a property and consider painting, what affects the cost of painting is how much do we really have to paint? Do we have to paint every piece of trim, every baseboard, every handrail? Sometimes, like a house like this is a nice neutral color, so it'd be easy to paint. As far as the color wise, but every square inch of this house will have to be painted. Sometimes when you run into designer colors, it's cost effective to go ahead and cut a little swatch out and match the color, because when you're matching the color, you can use less paint. So a typical paint job would be 1 to 2 coats, and then the trim walls. Sometimes on a house that's in good condition, you could just clean all the baseboards and everything, but that unfortunately is not the situation here in this house. So I mentioned on the exterior of the property that there were some shingles missing, and obviously there are some indications that water is getting into the property around the location of where the shingles were missing. There's another area here where the wall is, and it looked like this stain right here would be from the roof. So there's definitely water getting in, which is not something that you want happening. That's probably one of the most important aspects of the home is the roof, and to keep it in good shape. Also here, getting back to the paint, you'll see that there's a lot of repairs, sheetrock repairs, that will affect the cost of painting. And here again, more damage. When we intake a property to get it ready for market, we also look at all the blinds in the property. Typically on this house, every single blind would have to be replaced. It's either filthy or missing. Landlord might ask us why we would choose to do something like that. It's because what we don't want is for tenants to move in and not be able to afford coverings for their windows and then put up sheets and stuff like that. It doesn't look good from the outside of the property. A lot of times these communities have homeowners associations, and could cause fines from the homeowners association. There's rules and regulations sometimes set up in a lot of these properties. This would be a good example of that, this type. Typical homes that are built around this era will have what's called double pane windows. These windows have a gas on the inside of the window that actually helps bring down the sun's radiation into the house, so it makes the house more efficient, and it holds back heat. This is a typical example of the seal of that has been compromised. Now, for rental purposes, it's not necessary to replace this window, but when you go to sell it, you would definitely need to have that replaced. It would be something that would come up in inspection, and of course it would be negotiable. So another good thing about this type of window, you lift it up a little bit. Typically you have a window screen like you see on this side to prevent bugs from coming in, so you can open your windows. But this gives you an easy way to clean your window. If somebody wants to clean the outside of their window. Also, this bottom sash can come out. I'm not going to do that here, but it does make it easier to repair these windows. Okay, so I mentioned the fireplace on the outside of the house. Well, this is a typical fireplace. You'll have of course, your mantle, and then a little hearth here that's on the floor. Sometimes they're built up, sometimes they're flat. This is just a slate hearth. Looks like it's been painted. The construction of this fireplace is called a fire kit. This is a fire brick that's made so it resists heat. This, of course, holds the logs, and then you have these little pop-outs here. If you have gas available, you could do a gas kit. Sometimes people like to have the gas kit to get the wood started, and then just turn it off. This does not have that, or you could convert it into like a gas log that's actually metal logs. It looks like wood. These fireplaces too have a vent. As you can see, I just opened it up and some bugs have come out of there. It's probably because the vent system is kind of needs a new cover. And this flue that goes all the way up through the top of the roof does need to be cleaned on occasion, because when you burn certain woods, it will cause soot to develop. And you want this in the open position so the smoke can exit the property. And that's closed, it's open and closed. So we usually typically just leave it closed. I prefer tenants not to use the fireplace, but on older properties that have older fireplaces, I will typically close those up. Now, another way that you can construct this is using actual brick. It's called a masonry fireplace, but we don't see those very often on this type of property. They're usually reserved for older properties or higher end, expensive properties. Okay, well, follow me here. We'll go into the kitchen. Another example of a typical flooring. This is called a vinyl laminate. It's the least expensive, typically, option. There are some nice, attractive options for vinyl. Some of them can even look exactly like tile. As you can see here, this is one of the ways that you could fail with the vinyl is scratching and tearing. That it's very hard to patch something like that when you have a tear in your vinyl. Other options would be for a kitchen would be tile, ceramic tile, which is of course more expensive and more labor intensive to put in, but it's very durable and typically lasts longer. You have to be careful of putting a tile on an upper floor like this, because the floor has more flex, but there are ways to support that. This is a typical oak style cabinetry, as you can see. And then we have countertops. These are called Formica countertops, and very typical in this type of construction of home. As you can see, there's a chip here, and we would have to get in there and really clean it. So these typical shelving systems. This outlet here, one of the code when you're building a property in Georgia is they have ground fault circuits, And ground fault circuits are typically anything near water. I don't know if you've seen in those horror movies where an oven or those little toasters falling into, or a blow dryer is falling into a tub. Well, this is what's supposed to protect that. If you were to have an appliance plugged into this GFI outlet and it was to touch water, or there was a surge, then it would trip. This outlet is identified as a GFI outlet, and they're all tied into this one outlet here. So you have like a test. So that outlet does not work at this point. Neither do any outlets that it's connected to, and that would be the other two that I had mentioned before. It's a simple fix. Just push the reset button and it's good to go. This is a way you can test and make sure that this is working. So sometimes we'll have tenants call and say their outlets aren't working, and this is a typical reason why. Okay, and then right here, of course, you have your typical sink, and you have a sprayer for the water. And we always try to check as best we can hot water and the pressure, making sure there's no leaks. Run the water on this and look for previous leaks. And but also, when we're painting the property or we're doing minor repairs on a renovation, I have the guys use all these systems in order to look for anything that might come up for a tenant, because we want as little bumps in the road when they move in. Sometimes you'll find what's called a garbage disposal. This one does not have a garbage disposal, but we are tied into a drain here that goes over to a dishwasher. And most properties built around this time is going to have a dishwasher. We always check that and make sure it's clean. Just like on this one, you have some wheels missing. Not sure if it's draining properly. We just have to run that down the road and see. There's a heating element that helps dry the plates and everything. A typical package, like you would see here, a dishwasher, a stove, a vent hood, and a microwave. Or a vent hood, microwave, and a refrigerator. You're looking at around $1,500 to $2,500 to replace those. It's this particular range here is doesn't like it's in really good shape. It's called an electric stove. It has an electric element on it, and it has an oven to bake goods in. But it looks like the element has been bent and damaged. There's no shelving in here, so more than likely this would have to be replaced. This particular unit is electric, and a lot of times they have the option for both. This one does not. So the other option would be gas, which would be natural gas. To service this. As you can see, there's some cabinet doors missing, and there's some adjustments that will need to be made. We have good carpenters that can do that. We got a little adjustment right there. Okay, so this property has what's called a separate dining area. This is where they would have breakfast and dinner together as a family. It's a nice room. We would put some blinds up here. It's very warm in here right now because of all the heat coming in. The blinds will help that. A lot of times too, as a landlord, one thing to consider is utility cost. You want your home to be as efficient as possible because you want them to have as much money available at the end of the month to pay their rent. When you have a house that's super inefficient with have very high gas bills, very high electric bills, if they're not insulated properly, and then they don't have good window coverings on them to prevent the heat coming in, and they're having exorbitant utility bills, and it just causes trouble down the road. So I even have had investors convert their houses completely to electric, just so the tenant will just have one bill. Also, the doorbell here is missing its cover. There's just little minor things like that that will have to be addressed. You don't want to leave that for a tenant to look at every day as they go to work. It just it's a morale thing. You want them to be proud of the home that they're in. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to have granite countertops and tile everywhere, but it does have to be clean and complete. Okay, look, we got another little hole here. This is a thermostat for the upstairs. So you got your cooling and your heat. So, and you got your fan on or an auto. Always is typically auto, because on is the fan's just going to run 24/7. The auto will only run the fan when it's necessary, and you would change your temperature settings right here. There's several different options for thermostats. There's programmable thermostats where people can go to work and it automatically at 8 o'clock change the temperature and turn it back on at 5 o'clock. You can't do huge increments of change in temperature, but you can do some to help save energy. And then they have smart ones that you can connect to your phone. You can turn it on and off in different temperatures right there from your phone. Okay, we're coming in here into this is the hall bath. This is the shared bath. Typically on a house like this is 5 bedrooms, 3 full baths. And there will typically be a main bedroom, which is typically like a parent's bedroom, that will have a full bath in it, so you don't have to leave your room. But this bath is typically shared with the other 2 bedrooms on this floor. Typical issues that I like to look for, of course, is the toilets. Most of the time, the toilet seats will have to be replaced. You don't want that with your tenants in the house. Typical maintenance issues are these pumps. They get old. The gaskets get old and wear out, and it's a good idea a lot of times just to replace this kit with a simple replacement that we just get from Home Depot, just to assure there's no issues, because a little water leak could cost a lot of money for a tenant. And it could just be water leaking in the tank, and it could cause serious issues for cost. And we have had issues where they'll actually leak and then go down into the lower floor, which I think might be the issue here. This stuff can be replaced. We also always like to have drain stops in our sinks. This one is not operable. Well, yeah, so it's working okay. Hot and cold taps. I always like to make sure they're labeled. Back to the light bulb situation, we would definitely replace those light bulbs with the appropriate light bulbs. Likely to remove the wallpaper on this property as well. Another issue here, this is a tub. It's a fiberglass tub. It's very typical for this type of year of construction. You have of course your hot and cold, and then you have if you want to take a shower or a bath. We try to keep these as clean as possible for the tenants when they move in. I always recommend replacing the shower heads. Now, shower heads is not an expensive replacement. The cost for materials for just a new head, $20-25. But as you can see here, there's rust that's in here, and it's hard to clean. A lot of times that type of stuff will get stuck into the holes, and you have not appropriate amount of water coming out. Also, a tenant does not want to see this when they're taking a shower in the morning. Another issue is that people will replace them with the wrong shower head, and maybe it would cause too much of a spray, and you get water coming over on the tub and onto the floor, causing more issues. And that's definitely more of an issue on a property like this where it has 2 levels. And we always definitely want drain stops in those. Typical tub. This right here is a shower rod, and typically we don't provide shower rods, but they will, people have sometimes their own designer shower rod that they like to put up. But as you can see, every door in this place needs to be painted and to include the trim. Following out here down into the hall, this property has a nice little coat closet, which is nice to have. Right here, you'll find a smoke detector, and that is one of the most important things that you'll find in a property. You want to make sure they're all operational. We have double checks and balances to make sure that they all work and they all have new batteries in them, and if they're wired, they're working properly. Because the most important thing, you want people to be safe when they're living in your house. On down the way right here, we have the laundry room, and this is a laundry closet. This is where the washing machine will go. Got a hot and cold, and you go right here. Oops. There's a little drain right here. That's where it would drain out when it's time. Right here, there is a pan missing. Now, since this is on the second floor, if something was to ever happen with your washing machine and it was to overflow, you would want a pan there to catch some of the water, or if not all the water. This would be something that would need to be installed here. And this is where your dryer will go. This is your dryer outlet. It's a 4-prong dryer outlet, which is the safest outlet, and it's the one that's required for most units right now. If it's not a 4-prong, a lot of times we'll transfer it to a 4-prong. And this is the vent where the vents out the lint and the heat and the moisture from the dryer. And I pointed out earlier when we were walking around the exterior, that will require on the exterior a little bird cage to keep animals from going in. And it definitely needs to be clean on occasion, because you will build up lint in those, and the lint will be a fire hazard if not taken care of. This right here is a system. This is a minor adjustment, and a lot of people don't think of, and this is what I have my contractors watch out for. This needs to be screwed up and secured, and it's just a ball system. A lot of times we have to replace these systems here on top of the door and here, just because, like as you can see, this was how worn out it's getting and how loose those are. But those are the little things that, as a property management company, it's very important that we keep an eye out for, because you don't want people not to be able to open and close their doors, and if they can't close it, it's a lot of times you run into some sort of breakage, and you don't want that to happen. So this would be considered the master bedroom, or the main bedroom of the home. As you can see, it has a tray ceiling, or a tray/vaulted ceiling, a ceiling fan fixture here. It's another item when we're going to the end, where we're in the end of the renovation, is to clean on top of the blades, just to get a nice fresh start, nice fresh clean. That's the little delicate touches that are so important. All the light bulbs are here. Currently, usually there's a switch for the lights and a switch for the fan in this room. Turn that back on. All right, and then we have the master bedroom closet. Typically, it's the largest closet in the house, because it's typically husband and wife would be living here, or a couple would be living here, and you have 2 sets of clothes in there, so got to have some room. Typical closet. Of course, there's 2 sets of blinds here, and as you can see, they're torn. So I know that we're going to have to replace all the blinds in this property, unfortunately. Here's another indication of a water leak. It looks like somebody has tried to fix it. There's a little bit of paint right here, pink paint that doesn't match. Like somebody maybe has tried to spray it or kills it, the discoloration, and I'm fairly certain that it's going to be something to do with the roof, unfortunately. We have another indication of water here, and I'm not sure where that might be coming from. Typical with the bathroom here, you have a garden tub, you have a separate shower, double vanities is very typical for a master main suite of a property. We always make sure, here's an example where the drain plugs are missing. A lot of times if you don't take care of that properly and go ahead and replace it, people will lose items in there, or they'll drop items in there that shouldn't be in there and not know how to retrieve it. It's a fairly simple fix. Sometimes we have to replace the entire kit. Sometimes we could just put in a new plug. But it's something that I always recommend to take care of. Again, we have the Formica countertops, and unfortunately we have a burn in the Formica countertops, and it's very likely that this top would need to be replaced. We just don't want to have those types of issues on a rental property. Also, too, always try to check, making sure that that there's no leaks. As you can see here, the way this is called a trap, is the way it sinks in like this, and this is to trap any debris, and it does hold water. So a lot of times when a house sits for a little while, you might get a little sour smell. So it's good to have my guys come in and run the water on every single thing for a period of time just to get those cleaned out. And then there's another closet, so I usually call that the hers and hers closet. This light bulb not working, so that's another thing that need to be addressed. I know it seems to be redundant, but it's important, and there is a cost involved every time you turn a house, every time somebody moves out to replace all the light bulbs. As you can see, they have the wrong light bulbs in that fixture. Again, you'll find the GFI outlets. This outlet is protected. So if someone had a hairdryer here and you had somebody in the tub and it was a fall in the tub, it's supposed to trip to where it doesn't work. It's connected to this outlet. So again, you have the test and then the reset. And even if it's just like how maybe something will spark or whatever, that's supposed to catch that. And you'll find that and in the breakers in the when we look at the electrical panel. All right, let's look at this shower real quick. A lot of times these shower doors, and this is a perfect example, are in need of repair. As you can see, will not close. They do sell little minor kits to fix. As you can see, this is bent. It may just take an adjustment, or it may have to be replaced. I'm not even opposed to just removing it. The only issue that we have when we remove it is the holes that it's secured. So if we can repair it, we will. But there is a possibility of just putting a shower curtain here. So again, in the shower, you got to always check the drain pan, because that could be an issue. Any cracks in there, we would replace the shower head. As you can see, the discoloration and the rust, and those little holes get full, and if you're living in here and you're having to look at that as you're taking a shower, it's not a good feeling. So it's really good to try to be good to your tenants and have that stuff replaced. All right, this will move on to the bedrooms. All right, so nice feature of this house has a little laundry closet. So for towels or different things, it's connected right next to the laundry room. And this is the two bedrooms. On the upstairs, to complete the two secondary bedrooms, and these bedrooms would share the bathroom that we had went to. As you can see, there's some pretty serious repairs involved here to and some of this glue and stuff like that, and that does affect the price of renovation, unfortunately. So, but a lot of times, when people know that they're going to be foreclosed and they're going to have to be forced to move out, they'll abuse the property. It just happens. Here's a window. These things sometimes get out of adjustment. As you can see, there's some stuff broken in here, so eventually these windows will have to be redone. This is a fairly large closet for a secondary bedroom. It's almost the width of the room. And as you can see, there's some repairs here to involve in the shelving system. And this is a very typical shelving system. It's very efficient. It's light. It's sturdy. Typically, it looks like somebody may have hung on it, but it would have to be replaced because it's bent. But this is a great shelving system that's used a lot in properties constructed around this time. Same secure system here. All right, and just pretty much a little bit more of the same here in the secondary bedroom, but now we're getting into more issues with the roof. We're going to find them, and it's very typical for. It's kind of a great spot. I say great spot, but it's indicates exactly where that leak is coming from the roof. So there's certainly some issues with the roof, and we're hoping that the roofing contractor can help with that. And then this right here, water coming in right at the air conditioning vent. So this air conditioning vent is connected to the HVAC in the attic. So up in the attic, there's another unit that we're going to look at the one on the main floor. Here's another example of the condensation that's in between the panes. This is not on the outside or the inside, it's on the inside of the double panes. So you have a glass, and then you have a gas on the inside that lowers the sun's rays, and then you have the glass on the outside, and you got these little decorative things in here. This would have to be replaced. Not necessarily replaced for rental purposes, but it definitely would need to be replaced at some point. And that would be the owner's option if they want to do it now, or they'll wait till they're, they want to sell the property. Because typical people who want to buy to live in the property want those types of things addressed. All right, let's go take a look downstairs. All right, so heading on downstairs, this house is wired for an alarm system. Typically, they do the main floor and the front door that's the tenant's responsibility if they would want to have that serviced. That is not something that the seller would pay for. On occasion, depending on our fear of theft, we will activate these for a short term while they're under renovation if we feel like there's any threat of vandalism or theft. Okay, so now we're on the lower level of the property. There's going to be some secondary bedrooms down here. There will be a full bathroom down here. This is a little utility closet and keep your vacuum cleaner, etc. Here is a typical secondary bedroom on the main floor. It has a small closet. I was able to find the glass to go over the light fixture, so I set it there to make sure nobody misses it. We want to get it up. All the flooring on this floor would have to be replaced, like the upstairs. We do experiment with some laminate that is a good option instead of carpet, because a lot of times you can just replace pieces of the laminate. We'll get into that later when we go through some floor covering options. Doorknob missing. That's just another little expense. It's not much, but it's all that has to be repaired. Now this here could be considered a bedroom. It does have a closet in it, but it would likely be more of a den. So this floor would have its own den. You'd have the bedroom here, and you'd have another bedroom, and they would share this bathroom here. And nothing out of the ordinary here. Light bulbs. We would properly install blinds where it's not sitting on the outside like that. We have definitely would get in a new shower head here, make sure everything's running, nothing's leaking. Same thing with the toilet system there. Oh, and we see here is evidence of a leak So that would have to be explored. I've already shown you the back door here. There has been some rain recently, and you can hear that the pad under the carpet is wet. So it's definitely still leaking on where the deck is attached to the house. And then this is the other bedroom that would be complete. The 5 bedrooms, or 3 bedrooms upstairs, 2 bedrooms on the main level. Of course, replacing the blinds here. The glass we would leave, unless the owner would like us to remove it. It's in good shape. If there was cracks in it or anything like that, or if it was not installed very well, we would typically get rid of it. As you can see, there's another indication of a leak. The good thing is, this is typically what happens to a leak. When the water is sitting on the sheetrock, I don't know if you can see it, but it actually bows. It starts to sink and causes the discoloration. Now somebody has taken a pin and poked it so the water can drain out, which is very good to do that. So typically we would just cut out a hole here with our sheetrock knife and explore where the leak is coming from. Likely it's a bathroom or a kitchen on this floor. Okay, so now we're getting into the HVAC system. There's not a lot of light here. I'm not sure. Yeah, there's not a light in here. But this is your typical system. They have what's called returns right here. This sucks air in from the house through a return, and it cools it or heats it and distributes it throughout the house. Now, this system services the lower level. So one of the things, of course, you'd want to always have this serviced, but I do not see a pump for the condensation line. So the unit will create some condensation, which is water, and if it's not piped properly out of the house, it will drop here onto the floor. So typically this is connected to a little pump with a little bulb on the inside. Once it gets high enough, it'll pump the water up and out of the house. So this definitely needs to be serviced before it's even worked on. One thing, as far as maintenance-wise, and you want to make sure your tenants are aware, is that every unit has a filter. This one here, this is where I showed you the pipe coming out. It's sucking air through here, and as it does, it's being in the filter. So this filter is definitely in need of changing. You never want your filter to look like this. This is an efficiency issue. If it's not able to draw the air in, if it's struggling to draw the air into the property, it's going to cause definitely cost-wise with your utility bills. So that's one of the major factors with tenants, is just, training them to do that. Now we do suggest just going ahead and having the house on a maintenance schedule. That way you don't have to worry about the tenants never changing the filter. Changing the filter does not changing the filter does put a strain on the system. So it's something very important. It's a little bit more money, but to have a heat and air guy that you trust come in here 4 times a year is a good idea. And then of course this thermostat runs the lower level. Another thing that I had missed is looks like somebody has kicked this door in, so that's a repair. So let's see, I think there's a going to come around here to the garage. Now this is a typical door for any door that leads to the outside. We're here at the garage. This door here is an insulated door, and it's typical to put an insulated door anywhere that leads to an uninsulated area. Your front door, your rear door, garage door. A lot of times there's attic spaces that are connected to an insulated area. It should be insulated to not allow heat and cold to come in. This door unfortunately has been broken. It's not repairable. So this door will have to be replaced. Coming on in here, we have a typical garage. This is a two-car garage. They do have electrical openers, which is great because you want your tenants to move their cars in here with the openers. But this door here has been compromised, so we have it bolted shut. There's a break right here. This top panel will have to be replaced before anybody can use it. Now, if you know, that is an option for a landlord, I would suggest to always have them operational. We could take the chain unit out and just have somebody use it manually. It is an option. But you know, if you have someone coming into the home with groceries, and you know, it's raining outside, it's nice to be able to pull into your garage and get rid of those things here. Well, I mentioned on the exterior pressure washing, we would always pressure wash the garage floor, because the garage floor will typically have oil and stuff, so we'll do a degreaser on it and pressure wash it, just so it won't be perfect. The garage is never perfect. We don't typically paint the garages every time we intake a property, but it's a good idea to have it nice and clean. We have another water issue here that would have to be addressed. We have to explore where that water is coming in prior to repairing that. The light fixture is missing right here. Is it supposed to look like that on that side? We would definitely suggest putting a new fixture in, even if it's a simple one that's in a globe. All right here, this is a typical electrical panel. And you saw there's on the outside, you saw the power going in under the ground, and it comes up here into this panel. And these are the breakers that are protected breakers. And then we have the labeling here. This is the water heater. There's two breakers right here for the water heater. The AC for the downstairs has two breakers here. And the furnace, and then more furnaces. Then you have a stove, and the AC, dryers. Sometimes you have to be very careful with hot water heaters if they're electric, to never turn them on with no water in them, or you'll ruin it. So then you have the bedrooms and lights and stuff, and these bedroom ones are typically a little more sensitive. You know, it's just part of what is required by code enforcement here. So if you were ever to have a surge or something, it would trip here, and it would reset the breakers there to reset the power to that. Over here to the left is the hot water heater, and this hot water heater is electric. It does have water in it, so it's safe to turn on the power. Of course, there's typically, this is your typical installation with having a tank. There are tankless ones as well. This heats the water for the whole house. This is an electric hot water heater. There's an electrical wire coming in here. This right here is, if the pressure was to ever build in the tank from the outside water too much, it'll release water. As you can hear, it's going out and going outside. And this is your hot, and then, this is your water coming in and your water going out to the house. So if you ever wanted to turn off the water, it would be done right there. And the adjustments for the heat on there's two elements here, would be right here. If you ever wanted to drain it, would be right here. The good thing is that it's in the garage, so you don't have to worry about if it was a leak doing much damage to the property, because you got a lip here. The driveway was poured separately than the foundation, so we won't have water going in and seeking on the carpet. The only thing that would be this wall here, but otherwise it's a very safe place for the hot water heater. All right, well, let's get it out this way. I I think that kind of gives you an idea of what we do. We're going to do several more of these videos of different properties, different property constructions, so you can get an idea of what you're buying when you're buying here in the Metro Atlanta area. We'll also do a follow-up video once this house is all cleaned up and painted and new flooring and everything else, so you can get an idea of how it's going to look when it's done. Thank you so much, and we've enjoyed spending some time with you.